So, as I said, women has their in the fertile years. So estrogen, female hormone, and testosterone. But when menopause comes, there are many symptoms that could be actually helped with using estrogen. So there is so-called hormone replacement therapy, and women are being given low dose of female hormones as a patch or as a cream. But there are certain symptoms like, for example, very low sex drive, dryness in vagina that also prevents women from having sex or having even thinking about having sex. There are symptoms that has something to do with the cognitive function also. There is forgetfulness. They could be treated maybe better with testosterone, but because whole world is scared of the hormonal therapy, only brave doctors prescribe testosterone. But again, there is not that much research even done on women in terms of testosterone. It's only about sexual restoration of sexual function and nothing else. So this is actually one big question for our future research. And especially when it's come to like Asia, is in Asian women, those issues are even less studied. Thank you. Yes, Farhla.
I was just curious about like low-income countries.
Yeah.
I think like is there any research done about the menopause that does women like how many of them knows about this? Like I grew up in Afghanistan, but it took me a very long time in my life, like later in my life, that I know that okay, women go through this phase of menopause. After that,
So Frakoasam from Afghanistan asked the question whether women, especially in the developing world, in the poor countries, in the poor societies, actually know about the menopause and what it is. And the answer is very complicated. Actually, there even in developing countries like Japan, many women prefer not to know or just simply were not educated because there is so much stigma associated with menopause. But when it comes to the developing country, it really depends on how women society, how the interaction between women are going on. In the place where I come from, my grandmother and my mother, we talk to each other about what's happening with us. In Japan, it's very rare, even though it's very much a developed country. At the same time, I've been interviewing women from India, for example, where women's community is very, very strong. They support each other a lot. So they may be not recognizing right away that, oh, this is menopause, but because they share this knowledge about their bodies, so they happen to notice that something is wrong. And there is this shared knowledge about, kind of stages of life. So I just haven't unfortunately interviewed people from all around the world, but I really feel that the way the level of openness in the society of women about their body, it's what impacts the most, the knowledge about what's going on with their body. Because if it's like stigma to talk about it, if it's if women are too shy to discuss it even with their mother, how can they know? So if you have chance to set up meeting for me, I'll be happy to interview some women. Yes. Thank you.
I just
Yes.
have a comment. Although the medical profession and governments probably, well, not probably, they're less motivated to research and to give resources to women. But women talk, right? And like you started your presentation saying that multiple generation after generation after generation, that there's wisdom that's passed down from generation to generation. Herbs, ways of taking care of yourself that women share with one another. And I think you make a good point that uh, societies that are more matriarchal or that that have strong women circles tend to fare a little bit better. If we were just waiting around for the male medical profession to take care of us, then we'd be in a sad state of affairs. There would be no babies, there would be no males, right? So we do take care of each other. And I'm a little sad to hear that even at this late stage, that the medical schools are not teaching more about women's health. It's very disheartening.
They're starting.
So thank you for her life lab, and research that you're attempting to do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Do I? Shall I? It's okay. I think it's time.
Let me just give a very brief summary about this.
Okay, so there was comment. No, it's okay. There is a comment from the audience that if shared knowledge of the women from the generations is very important, and this is why actually we are capable of taking care of ourselves and actually deliver and have children. And if we would have been waiting for medical professionals to help us, things wouldn't have happened probably. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you to Gail Wells for that excellent comment. I feel like she really summed up Olga's talk perfectly, so I don't need to do that. In about 2 minutes, we'll switch over to the next speaker. I'm just going to put up the new slides. Is this going to be too quiet? All right. Sorry. Okay. All right. You want to come stand here? Okay. So our next speaker is like part of the Nerd Night team, and Roktum Das was one of the people who really he kept Nerd Night alive in my head for the last 2 years. And we discussed it for a very long time over the pandemic. So one of the big reasons we still have Nerd Night is because he wouldn't let it die. He's currently a PhD student at the University of Ryukyu. He's trying to understand coral health and disease across the Japanese archipelago. He finished his master's at the remote Andaman Islands studying shipwrecked biodiversity, and then continued to understand critical ecological habitats across the coast of India. He is really good at eating, snorkeling, and growling. And he's agreed to join Nerd Night team as Ryukyu co-boss, and he'll be helping to recruit speakers and spreading the news of Nerd Nights to come down south. Thank you, Roktum.
Thank you, Crystal. It was very nice intro, but I have not done that much, as you have said, but it's nice to be here again standing. Anyways, hi guys, I'm Rock Tim. I'll be talking about coral health and disease. I am a PhD student at the University of the Ryukyus. I am studying coral diseases, and today my talk is understanding coral diseases, why perspective matters. So the perspective word is very important because I have some perspective with what I do. So on the right hand side, that's a coral from the Western Indian Ocean. That's the Lakshadweep atolls, and the white band you can see that's a disease. It's basically eating the coral out. So before I go ahead, I'll talk about myself a little bit. I was born in Assam. Assam is in northeast India. Assam is famous for tea. We are famous for tea. We have tea gardens, and we are also famous for beautiful mystical biodiversity, and we don't have an ocean, but we have a terrestrial fauna. Then after that, I went out after my undergrad. I went for my master's in the Andamans, where I did my master's in shipwreck biodiversity. I was studying the epifauna of shipwrecks of World War II era shipwrecks. And there is also an island in between India and Thailand, and it's really there's a lot of fringing reef out there. Then after that, I started working with the Ministry of Environment and Forest, where I was located in Chennai. Chennai is in a southern part of India. It has the longest beach in the world, I suppose. That's the Marina Beach in Chennai. During my time, I also spent some time in the Lakshadweep atolls, where I had to survey the uninhabited islands of the Lakshadweep atolls. So that's the Lakshadweep, that's in the Western Indian Ocean. That's atoll, and that also has a very nice coral reefs, which is basically untouched by the human. I mean, people are there, but it's still untouched compared to the Maldives. This is above Maldives, to be precise. And then after that, I came to Okinawa, and now I'm in Okinawa for some long time. So yeah, it's fun here. So before jumping to diseases, let's talk about what are corals. So corals are basically animals associated with symbiotic algae known as zooxanthellae. So corals are animals, but they don't move like other animals. Of course, there are some corals like mushroom corals which kind of migrate here and there, but they have the algae known as zooxanthellae. 500 million people depend on corals because corals are very diverse, and they provide a kind of habitat which gives a lot of industry. Like the diving industry in Okinawa, for example, is one of the biggest example of how they help people. So if the coral reefs are degrade, it's not a good thing for everyone, not for the corals, not for the fish, and also not for the humans. So corals need sunlight to grow. That's like humans, we need sunlight for vitamin D. The trees need sunlight. The corals also need sunlight to grow. But the problem is if there is too much of sunlight, and heat, it's not good. So on the right hand side, this is a coral reef from Japan. This is from the Keramas, and you can see there are different kind of coral reefs out here. Do you have a laser kind of? So these are all different kind of corals. This is a coral known as millipora. These are acroporas. This is a estriopora, and there are some encrusting corals around here. And so yeah, corals are diverse. They are dynamic, and it's a very diverse ecosystem. So So how are reefs formed? So before again I'm going to diseases, we have to know how the reefs are formed. So basically there are three different kinds of reef out there. One is the fringing reef. This is the fringing reef, which in Okinawa you'll see the fringing reef. This is the barrier reef, the Great Barrier Reef, which actually it has a lagoon in that. Then there is a back reef, and there is a reef crest, and there is a fore reef. So the Great Barrier Reef is a very good example of the Great Barrier Reef. Like Andrew has done a lot of studies on the JCU on the Great Barrier Reef, so he'll know better than me. And then there is a lagoon. The lagoon is like there is no island but just a lagoon, and there is the reefs around in the crest and all. And it's actually very beautiful. You can swim around, and if you can get opportunity to visit all Maldives and all, you should definitely go and check out those places. So this is basically the three types of reefs, and this takes a long time to form. I mean, it just doesn't form overnight. It takes thousands of years to get into the shape. So I actually took a video. How to play a video?
I think just click. Yeah, it's playing.
So this is a coral, and they have something known as zooxanthellae, which I told you guys, and it is associated with this coral. So this zooxanthellae get the sunlight, and they provide oxygen, sugars, and fats to the corals. On the other hand, the corals provide different kind of things to the zooxanthellae. So they have kind of a relationship so that the corals thrive and grow. I have another kind of a video where you'll show this is a coral. So basically, corals are consist of polyps. So these different polyps make one coral, and these corals basically they eat dissolved matters from the ocean, and as a result, it forms calcium carbonate. So when it forms calcium carbonate, it actually grows. So the entire reef is made up of calcium carbonate. So it eventually grows one by one. So this is just one polyp. So this one colony of a coral consists of thousands of polyps. Of course, it depends on the type of coral you're working on, but this kind kind of polyp, it produces calcium carbonate and it grows. But now, the problem these days many people are facing is there is known as acidification due to high carbon dioxide and all. The ocean is getting acidified, so it is actually hindering this process of coral growth. But it's a big topic. I will not talk about here much. So yeah, I just got a photo to you guys to show that this is a reef and different kind of corals around in the one in the circles. All different colors are different corals around here, and I don't know all the corals because it's very difficult. It's a mess. The coral taxonomy is a mess technically, but I can somehow identify a few of them if you not wrong. So let's move on to the topic now: coral diseases. So what are coral diseases? So basically, diseases are something which is not good at all. So, so we all know that coral reefs are declining worldwide. The entire world is facing the threat because of climate change. The corals are declining. They are facing threats, and the government has to do more to protect these reefs. So diseases are considered as one of the major factors for the decline of corals, because there are around from Japan there are 10 reported diseases, and in worldwide there are around more than 30 diseases worldwide, and most of them are like mostly understudied. So and yeah, light and temperature is known to play a major role for coral diseases, but again uh, it is again a very wide topic. So many diseases has the various kind of factors, but again it was, yeah, the first disease was reported in the 1970s in Belize in Caribbeans. So Caribbeans is known as one of the hotspots for coral disease. It's really devastating the reefs, but again it's a long time scenario. People are studying there for years and years, so they're getting the idea now. On the right hand side, this is actually a coral with a black band disease. This is a typical disease which was one of the first reported diseases. This is basically a form with a bacteria, and if you see in the microscope, you can see this kind of bacteria is found in this disease. It's not very clear here in the picture, but it's a black kind of mat that eventually eats the coral. So have some references. So So I'll show you guys some kind of diseases here. This is a bleaching of Posilopora species. These corals have bleached. Bleach means the zooxanthellae I showed you guys before. It actually left the corals because of high temperature. This is a form of disease. This is not a coral. This is an algae known as crustose coralline algae, which helps in the settlement of coral larvae. But this also has this white line is a disease. It's actually eating up this CCA or crustose coralline algae. Then this is the famous cyanobacterial black band disease, and you can see this one is a different coral, and this one is a different coral. So this disease doesn't affect this coral, but even if it's there, it will not affect it. And I've seen over the course of time, this I think this is a millipora, and these are very resistant to diseases. And then this is known as a SCB or skeletal eroding band. This is again a technical name. This is again a disease affecting one of the corals. This is known as invertebrate gauze. So there are some invertebrates in the corals which stay in the corals. They cause the coral to be deformed. And these are known as tumors. They grow on the corals. They don't kill the corals, but they actually eventually make the coral look really bad. And if the coral look bad, it's not good. I think so. So these are some kinds of diseases. And now I have to come back to the perspective. I was talking about some perspective. So what is the perspective? So I came across a very interesting paper in the I think 2020s that a guy he went to a museum and he found a painting. I mean, there are a lot of paintings on there, so it's nice to talk about paintings here. So in this painting, the artists have drawn a very nice reef. And in the reef, he has found a coral with a disease. It's a black band disease. And this painting was done in the 18th century. So in the 1970s, people are saying it's the first study. But if you look into this painting, it's 18th century, it's there. And the author actually found this, he actually confirmed that this is a disease. So that maybe not all corals die because of disease? What if the disease is playing some kind of a strategy to itself survive? maybe the disease itself leaves some of the host alive for its own survival. It might be another possibility, but it's again very it kind of going against a lot of scientists who studying diseases. How can you say like that? But it's just a perspective. And then yeah, so we try to address some of this. So these are some of the places I've been doing some work. And this is the Sesoko, this is Iriomoto, this is the Kochi and Sesoko. We actually did some surveys. These are some of the reefs in Sesoko. And you can see here, this is like the kind of corals which are affected by diseases here. And this is some of the corals. This is actually taken by a drone picture. And then we did surveys for 4 years, and we found that this typical disease, this black pie diagram you can see here, these are all that particular black band disease which we are looking at, and it's known to be seasonal, and it also kind of occurs every year. So every year we are looking into these diseases occurring again and again. And this yellow color pie you can see, these are all healthy colonies. So all these healthy colonies is also there so much. So, and this is one of the picture of one of the corals that have actually evaded the black band disease. It's not only evaded, it's actually growing over it's actually competing with other corals. So you can see here. So based on this, we can say that, I mean, yeah, of course, the corals, the disease is bad, but, there is some kind of a thing is going on that is kind of balancing the system altogether. But again, if there is a lot of temperature, a lot of climate change, a lot of heat, things will get worse. That's for sure. But things are going on like this, and this study was done in Sesoko. So Sesoko, we are still seeing a lot of healthy colonies which are affected, and it's in thousands. It's not like in hundreds. So maybe we don't know. Maybe after 15, 20 years, if I come and see, maybe I can give you some more perspective into this. Anyways, since we're in Okinawa, I would like to share you guys about the Okinawan reefs. So I've done some surveys in many parts of Okinawa. So this is the Nakagosuku Bay. This is very beautiful reef, and but since I'm already looking for diseases, don't see me pessimistic guy. But this is a kind of bleaching, which not complete bleaching, but kind of a partial bleaching. This is Sesoko. We have done a lot of work Sesoko, and these yellow color circles are all diseases. These are black band disease. Beautiful reef, I have to say. Then in Ogimi, we are doing some surveys with Professor Reimer, my lab supervisor, and this kind of a sponge. The sponge is actually killing the corals. So this sponge actually, it's a different species, but you can also term it as a disease. So this is again one of those things affecting the corals. Again, in Suna Bay, it's nearby. There is also, I found some predation. Some animals, they come and eat the corals. So it's also known as a kind of predation or disease. Fish and snails, they eat corals, so it affects the corals. This is one of the studies, and one of the authors that found a disease in a 35-meter deep reef. So it's a mesophotic reef, which is with low light. So this is kind of my last slide. So thank you guys. I would be happy to answer any Q&As if required. And yes, namaste. I'm from India, so nice to talk. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
No, I have a comment.
Yeah, sure.
So, I thank you for answering the burning question that I and a lot of my high school students have
Right.
about coral.
All right.
What is it?
Okay.
It is an animal, so now I'll be a rock star when I go to school.
Okay.
That is an animal. Thank
Right.
you.
Right. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, please.
I grew up in Mexico,
Yes.
and I see this beautiful coral online, and now I see more blue and different colors coral more than before. What is it? Like, is it disease or something?
Blue. So the corals can turn blue or pink when they are stressed out. They have some kind of pigments out there. They can turn bluish pigments. I've seen some corals with getting when yellow. There are some kind of diseases which might fall from yellow band. And yellow, if you have to show me some pictures, what kind of yellow, I cannot just say like that. Bright yellow. Andrew, do you know bright yellow? Okay, this is Professor Andrew Bett from JCU. He is one of the pioneers of coral reef studies. And so I don't want to make mistakes here. Right, yeah, please.
Sir, Rocky, there are lots of
Right.
We've discussed a few of them, climate change, disease. One you didn't mention was cyclones and storms and cyclones.
Right. Right.
So, how do you think disease rates in terms of sort of global threats to coral reefs? Is it something we really should be putting energy into, or are the threats elsewhere?
So diseases. Yes.
Just need to repeat the question.
Yeah. So he has asked that how can we rank the diseases in terms of other threats, like if there is of course there's the climate change, there is the temperature rise, there is global bleaching events, there is storms and typhoons which are increasing because of climate change. So the fact is that I think diseases are important, of course, but they are also these things are responsible for diseases. So diseases occurs after bleaching. So this is also something you cannot completely leave out for. So we have to address all these issues, but we have to do it in a global scale, I suppose. Then only we can get some kind of answers. But we can definitely study them and learn more knowledge about how these things works and all. Thank you.
I have a question. Is there some kind of public science resource where, for example, like if somebody is snorkeling and they spot something they think is a disease, can they report it anywhere? Like take a picture, share it on iNaturalist? Is there anything like that for corals?
I think for coral diseases, they have been doing some kind of small platform, but it's not as famous as those taxonomy like worms or something. But I think there is citizen science is very new in coral disease. They are doing something. I think you can actually find it somewhere to upload the pictures, because many people do it in ResearchGate, which is a science platform for scientists to upload the pictures. But a global platform, I am not sure if there is so famous like just one off platform. But there are very small platforms like around the globe. People are doing, yeah.
I guess it is like the cycle of corals from some of them dying off. So it's normal to see 7% of corals being bleached. But every time I snorkel somewhere, it's like, oh, I'm just stressed. It's like, it's so bad. But actually, so what is the roughly percent of the corals that is normal to be bleached in a given area?
That's a tough question. Yeah, as Dr. Olga asked, like, what is the percent of corals bleached to be bleached in a certain area? I think it depends. The first global, there are local bleachings and there are global bleachings. 1998 was the year where there was the global bleaching events. So in Japan, almost 100% coral bleached. That was the cycle, no? And then again there are bleaching events which are very massive, severe, and there are also bleaching events which are normal, happens every year. So this bleaching is relates to something known as El Nino and La Nina, but eventually the temperature is going so high that it's shrinking. So in a given reef, it will depend on the year, on the temperature, and what the condition of the reef is. Because there are studies, they are saying that in a turbid reef, the bleaching is little limited compared to a clear water reef. There is something known as doldrums when the water is very much calm, and that also causes bleaching. That was observed in Iriomote by Professor Baird and his team. Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay, I think there's no more questions, but thank you so much, Roktim. That was excellent. We learned so much about corals and coral diseases.
Thank you.
I think we have time for a 10-minute break between now and the final talk. So please feel free to go to the loo, order some more delicious food and drink, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. when it starts, it plays a background to it. So I don't know if you just wanted to play right away or it's only about. So if you wanted to like right before the top starts, it's like a noise like everyone like that. Or you can mute it. When you go to level, you open it. Is it? Oh, you can. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry to interrupt your break. It's last order, and we are not going to take any orders during the final speaker so that we kind of cut down on some of the noise. So please just get some food or a drink or whatever and dessert and then get ready for the last speaker. Thank you. Allie, are you ready? Thank you very much, folks, for sticking around for our last talk tonight, which is going to be our most interactive. I would also like to point out before we move on that Wuna-san, our delightful chef in the kitchen, has just asked me to let you know that the kitchen is now closed. So thank you for enjoying. Our next speaker is Ali Martinez. She has been a speaker at Nerd Night before. I very sadly missed her that night. So like one of the secret reasons I restarted Nerd Night was just so that we could invite her back so I could actually be at her talk this time. And like after she spoke at the last Nerd Night, I've been following her on Twitter, and it's an amazing source of like snark but mostly really positive, uplifting stuff. And the world just needs more Star Trek memes in general. So I'm really grateful for you to come in tonight. She's also known, AKA, as the 26-year-old Trekkie. Has that number changed? Like, you're still 26? Okay. All right. Frequent Star Trek cosplayer, Trek Geeks Network podcaster, and emerging YouTube content creator, and a previous Nerd Night Okinawa speaker. She says her online journey began as a means to connect with others that enjoyed the same fandoms as she did. It has since evolved into a platform of friendship, advocacy, education, and more. And above all, she abides by the motto of her brand: make your fandom your own. Boldly go in this life and encourage others to do the same. And we can only encourage her to do that tonight. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I feel a little strange coming up after two academics because I'm just like, yeah, I just really like Star Trek. That's it for me. But Peldar Joy, which means gratitude and welcome in Bajoran, which is my favorite Star Trek species. And I am Ali Martinez, better known as the 26-year-old Trekkie, or T-Trekkie up there. And like you said, you gave a perfect introduction. I don't even need to do it. So like she mentioned, my presentation tonight is going to be audience interactive. So I'm going to ask you guys to help me out a little bit. But first of all, I want to take a little bit of a poll to see like where the Star Trek knowledge is in the room tonight, or if there's any. And if not, that's totally fine with me. So first of all, can you raise your hand if you've ever heard of Star Trek before? And that would be before I just said it right now. Okay, that's good. Who has ever actually watched it? Whether it be like movies or TV, any of that. Okay. Hey, that's a good number. Is there anyone in the room that considers themselves like hardcore Star Trek fan? All right. Hey, we got one. You could probably come up here and give the presentation instead of me, but so that's great. I'll give a little bit of a background on Star Trek, whether or not you've seen it before or you speak fluent Klingon, which that's literally a thing you can do on Duolingo. You can learn Klingon, which is legit. And so Star Trek has been around for almost 56 years. On September 8th this year, that'll be 56 years. And it began with Star Trek, the original series, with Kirk and Spock and all that. And then we moved on to Star Trek, the animated series, after season 3 of the original series, when budget cuts forced them to go into animation because it was cheaper. Then Star Trek, the Next Generation, Captain Picard. Everyone always says, oh yeah, that's Professor X. I'm like, yeah, but he was in Star Trek first. And then Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the first Star Trek ever shown on a space station, which is pretty cool. Star Trek Voyager with the first titular woman captain, Captain Janeway. Star Trek Enterprise with Scott Bakula, if any of you are into Quantum Leap. That's pretty good too with Scott Bakula. Star Trek Discovery, after a long period of Star Trek not being on TV, we came back with Discovery with Sonequa Martin Green. Star Trek Short Treks, Star Trek Lower Decks, which is the first comedy Star Trek series written by Mike McMahon, who also writes Rick and Morty. Star Trek Prodigy, which is the first Star Trek kids show. It's on Nickelodeon. Star Trek Picard, which follows back around with Captain Picard. And most recently, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which just literally about a month ago just finished airing their first season, and they just wrapped production on season 2. So, like you mentioned, in February of 2020, I did speak here and I did the same kind of presentation where I'm going to present some scenarios and you guys are going to be interacting. And I didn't wear my Star Trek uniform tonight, but I am wearing something that is kind of a call to Star Trek. Does anybody know what it is? Do you know what it is? Yes. So, funny enough, in Star Trek Picard, the Daystrom Institute, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now, is an advanced cybernetics and robotics institute that is located, guess where? Okinawa, Japan. I cannot tell you how much I was freaking out when that came on the screen. So, the idea of tonight's talk is something that I presented to my social media space. So, Star Trek shows morality scenarios set in the future amidst the expansion of technology. What are some of, I asked them what their favorite morality scenarios depicted in Star Trek were, what episodes struck them as poignant, and the crew obviously has to make tough decisions sometimes, and there's not always a right answer. That's true in life now, as it would be in the future. And let me tell you, my followers had ideas. So those are some of the ideas that I included in the presentation tonight. So, strap up, even though they don't have seatbelts on starships, and I don't know, that was a major design flaw. I don't know why that is, but so like I said, we'll start. I'll present a scenario to you, like an episode of Star Trek. I'll explain it. I'm doing this all from memory, so if I miss something or if you guys are like, hey, what's that? Feel free to ask a question. And then I'm going to present, this is what you could do, or this is what you could do. And then you have to raise your hand for which you would do personally if you were the captain, if it was your choice. So let's begin. This is from Star Trek, the original series, season 1, episode 28, City on the Edge of Forever. This is also considered one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made. Thank you, Harlan Ellison, for that. So this came from Pseudo-Intellectualist Punk. They said, City on the Edge of Forever has no right answer, and it broke Kirk. So let's figure out what happened in this episode. So, first of all, Dr. McCoy is in sickbay, and he is treating a patient with a stimulant, and the ship goes through an anomaly. So obviously, like you saw in the GIFs before, everyone's running, and therefore completely room without anyone noticing and beamed himself down. I don't know. So obviously, the crew is concerned that he's down on the planet, so they beam down also, and they come upon this archway, and they try to contact the Enterprise, saying, "Okay, we came upon this archway. What is it? Like, do you know anything about it? Can the ship scan it?" No response. Can't even detect the ship in orbit. The Enterprise is gone. And so they're trying to figure out what's happening. They're trying to troubleshoot. And all of a sudden, this archway talks. And it says, "I am the guardian of forever." And a lot of other things, but mostly that. And so it says that it is an archway that promotes time travel, and that McCoy transported down to the planet, went through the archway, and went back into the past. And so Kirk and Spock, being the marauders that they are, decide to go also into the archway to try to find Dr. McCoy. And they get transported back to the 1930s, so they had to find a tire that obviously fit them. Everyone thought, if you've seen the episode, everyone thinks the uniforms are pajamas. So, but when they transport back, none of their technology works. There's not a power source that's strong enough to power their tricorders, to power anything that they need to figure out what happened. And so Spock gets to work on trying to figure out how to create this much power. And in the meantime, they are taken in by none other than Edith Keeler, who runs the local mission. And she provides them work, allows them to work at the mission to be able to help out the homeless and also help clean the mission. And so Kirk, being the ladies' man that he is, falls in love with Edith Keeler. Because, you know, every TV show ever, the person falls madly in love with them in like 2 seconds. So Spock makes a discovery, though. He finally is able to come up with enough power to be able to figure out what happened. And unfortunately, what he discovers has to do with Edith Keeler, whom Kirk is in love with. He discovers through his tricorder, he's able to see now, look back into the future and see what happened that caused the changes in the timeline, that Edith Keeler persuades the politicians of that time to not enter World War II. And therefore, Germany wins World War II. She's that important. And that McCoy, when he went back through the Guardian of Forever, saved her from dying. And so now that she's alive, That is the problem. And so they're all faced with a tough decision. At this point, is there another way to correct the timeline besides having Edith Keeler die? Can you convince her of something else? Or is it just, there's a lot of different interpretations on time travel. So, do you find a way to save Edith Keeler? Because obviously Kirk's in love with her. He's absolutely enamored with her, and you find some other way to correct the timeline, if there is any other way, or must Edith Keeler die? So first of all, who thinks they can find another way to save her? Ooh, okay. And who thinks that there's only one way to correct the timeline, that she has to die? I got a lot of no hands. Do we have any other thoughts? Any other ways that you could save it? Okay. What do you other thoughts? Okay. So time travel theory, like that it could happen at the same, yes. Oh, okay. All right. Did you have a thought also? Oh, okay. Like bring her up on the ship. But where's the ship? It disappeared. But okay. Transport her somewhere where she can't do it. Yes. Okay, just drop her somewhere. Okay, so let's compare what we thought to what actually happened in the show. Also, just as all of this for the live stream, this is property of CBS Paramount. No copyright infringement is intended. Just want to clarify that. Okay.
Oh. Hurry, maybe we can catch the Clark Gable movie at the off year. I'd
What?
love to see it. You know, Dr. McCoy said the same
McCoy. Leonard McCoy?
thing. Yes. He's in the mission. He's
Stay right here. Spock! Stay right there. What is it? McCoy. He's a... No, Jim.
Deliberately stopped me, Jim. I could have saved her. Do you know what you just did? He knows, Doctor. He knows.
Very sad. Edith Keeler had to die. So, on that note, let's move to the next thing. All right, so next are scenarios from Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 4. It's called Who Watches the Watchers? And actually, it's interesting because this episode has a great morality plot, but it's hardly ever talked about. This one was not from one of my followers. This is just an episode that I found that I liked. So first of all, what happens? This is the Enterprise D. Different, not the same as the NCC 1701. This one has the registry number with a D also. So the crew has been called by Starfleet to check up on a research station. They can't get a hold of this research station. So, hey, can you drop in, check it out? But there's something special about this research station. It is located on a Bronze Age world. So it is a secret research station because the Federation has rules that warp-capable civilizations cannot interact with civilizations that have not developed that yet, because they could be irrevocably damaged by, someone dropping a starship out of the sky, because that's not something you see every day when you live in a hut. So, turns out they go to this research station, that's secret, and they go in and they find out that all the technology has malfunctioned and that everybody on the research station, all the staff, are dead. And not only that, but the holographic generators that are hiding this station are malfunctioning. And so one of the people from the Bronze Age civilization sees, and he climbs up to figure out what's going on. And in the process, enters the research station, sees all the technology, hears all the Starfleet people talking about what happened, and then he's freaking out. They try to calm him down. He falls down the rock face cliff. So the doctor Dr. Crusher, not having the medical kit that she needs on the away team to be able to take care of him, they all beam up to the Enterprise again and they put him under a sedative because he can't see anything more than he already has. But guess what? They don't know anything about the civilization. They're just guessing about the sedative levels. He wakes up in sickbay on the Enterprise, sees Captain Picard, sees all of this crazy advanced medical technology, and he starts to think, dang, I think Picard is a god. I think he's a deity because obviously he's never seen any technology like this before. So they try to wipe his memory and they send him back down to the planet without checking if it worked. I don't know why that is, but they send him back down to the planet and he starts telling everybody on the planet, there's a starship in the sky, there's a god in the sky, he's come to save us, and his name is Picard. And so obviously, the crew of the Enterprise D is not happy about this. They don't want to violate the Prime Directive. They've now contaminated a Bronze Age civilization. So they send down 2 of their crew members in disguise to try to convince the people, no, you didn't see that. No, that didn't happen. It's impossible. But unfortunately, that does not work either. So they think Picard is a god. And so we are in a strange issue here where are we going to, as captains, because you guys are the captains, are you going to violate the Prime Directive further and go down there and explain to them everything that's on the ship to try to convince them that you're not a god? Or are you going to follow the Prime Directive, literally just peace out and let them worship you forever? So, who would tell them? Okay. And who would just let them worship you? That seems like the better option, isn't it? Okay, so let's find out what Captain Picard and the crew did. Just a little context for this, because it's weird when you're not seeing the rest of the episode. He brings up to the ship, he brings up the leader of the village. So that's who this person is.
That is my home?
Seen from far, far above.
Yet we do not fall. I never imagined I would see the clouds from the other side. Your powers are truly boundless.
It's the face palm. Iconic.
Nuria, your people live in huts. Was it always so?
No. We have found remnants of tools in caves. Our ancestors must have lived there.
So why do you now live in huts?
Huts are better. Caves are dark and wet.
So if huts are better, why did you once live in caves?
The most reasonable explanation would be that at one time we did not know how to make huts.
Just as at one time you did not know how to weave cloth, how to make a bow.
That would be reasonable.
Someone invented a hut. Someone invented a bow who taught others, who taught their children, who built a stronger hut, who built a better bow, who taught their children. Now, Nuria, suppose one of your cave-dwelling ancestors were to see you as you are today. What would she think?
I don't know.
Well, put yourself in her place. You see, she cannot kill a hornbuck at a great distance. You can. You have a power she lacks.
Only because I have a bow.
She has never seen a bow. It doesn't exist in her world. To you, it's a simple tool. To her, it's magic.
I suppose she might think so.
Now, how would she react to you?
I think she would fear me.
Just as you fear me.
I do not fear you any longer.
Good. That's good. You see, my people once lived in caves, and we then learned to build huts, and in time to build ships like this one.
Perhaps one day my people will travel above the skies.
Of that I have absolutely no doubt.
That one had a happier ending, don't we think? So Picard decided to tell her. And in turn, it's not shown, but she went down and she convinced everybody that Picard was not a god, that he really was nothing at all. So, all right, we'll move to Star Trek Voyager. This is season 5, episode 11, Latent Image. And this was suggested by one of my dear friends, Kira. And Kira said, I feel like Voyager... Oopsie, I can't even see it from here. I feel like Voyager is full of these just due to the nature of sticking to Starfleet and United Federation of Planets ideals while being 75 years away from home. Tuvix, which I used in my last Nerd Night here, comes to mind first, but Latent Image. And then in the Pale Moonlight, I also did last time. So Latent Image was perfect for this. So in this episode, a little bit